Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It is episode 9 of the Payne Report. And before we get into the podcast, I'm going to take care of a few housekeeping things. First off, little different background. This is my physical dorm room. But anyways, what was I going to say? I'm going to do podcast once a week as opposed to one on the weekend and one during the week. Just easier schedule for me since I'm working full-time in the summer now. So just a little bit of housekeeping there. But anyways, on deck today, I got Julio Jones, more of the Julio Jones saga, darkhorse MVP candidates. I got 3 of those. And then a little bit talking about Tua Tagovailoa and kind of the situation that we are seeing in Miami right now. And lastly, I'm going to talk about college coaches going on the hot seat in this next incoming college football season. So, let's just get into it. Right off the bat, Julio Jones saga has been heating up a lot this past week. Right now it is June 1st, so it is currently going to heat up a lot more. But as it's recording right now, June 1st, Julio's contract becomes a lot easier to train for the Falcons. So a lot could happen before this podcast can go up. And a lot may not happen before the podcast go up. But anyways, over the past week, we've seen Diana Rusi reported that the Titans had talks with the Falcons, and it's a long shot. But then Pro Football Talk came out and said, current thinking in league circles is that the Falcons will eventually trade Julio to Titans for a second. So very conflicting reports among journalists in the sports media, as we've seen. It's very much you got to take everything with a grain of salt. Titans fans can attest to this. A couple of years ago, there were rumors about Dante Hightower being traded to the Tennessee Titans when the Titans needed a pressing need at middle linebacker position. So just everything there, very much you got to take everything with a grain of salt of what's going on in terms of sports media reporting. I mean, we see it with Aaron Rodgers, with Adam Schefter and the Aaron Rodgers situation happening right now. And to name a few, Matthew Stafford earlier in the offseason, that was a situation there that you kind of had to take everything with a grain of salt until a trade became official. So everything right now, I would say take for a grain of salt. But as a Titans fan, it's kind of a bit of a double-edged sword because, I mean, Julio Jones is Julio Jones. You know, the name, he's going to help free up A.J. Brown, free up Derrick Henry. He can still produce at a high level, even though he's 32. I mean, you looked at it. I talked about it last podcast of his averages. If you took his averages and added to the 6 to 7 games that he missed during the 2020 season, very respectable numbers would have been up there in receiving yards and touchdowns. But a double-edged sword is where it comes into bringing guys back, re-signing guys like Harold Landry, Jeffrey Simmons, to name a few young guys that are key to the core. As A.J. Brown's going to be coming up soon too. So a little bit of a double-edged sword. The Titans can free up money with restructure Ryan Tannehill's contract. I think they can do that. I can see them doing that, restructuring it a little bit to free up some money. And I feel like that's something Ryan Tannehill would do too. So I think it'll be very interesting to see what's going to happen with Julio Jones over the next couple weeks, couple days, maybe. But, just because it's June 1st and beyond doesn't mean Julio's going to get traded on June 1st. Doesn't mean he's going to get traded on June 2nd, June 3rd, so on and so forth. It's going to take a while. Who knows what the Falcons really want for him. So, yeah, that is it for the Julio Jones saga. A bit of a small segment there, but I thought I'd just give a little update and my little 2 cents there. But as a Titans fan, I would love Julio, but also I can see why people wouldn't want Julio with the young core and everything. But in my opinion, bringing Julio Jones is Julio Jones. Just bring him in. And so that is enough of that. Next, I'm going to talk about my dark horse MVP candidates for the NFL season 2021 season coming up. And at the top of my list, totally unbiased, Joe Burrow. If those of you who don't know, Joe Burrow is my favorite college quarterback of all time. Right up there with Marcus Mariota. Joe Burrow is just my favorite college quarterback. LSU was the first college team I ever really liked, although I'm attending University of Missouri right now. But LSU is the first college team I ever really liked. And just for him to deliver that national championship just felt good that season, and just everything about Joe Burrow just felt good that season. So there's a reason why he's my favorite college quarterback of all time. And also, you can just see it and The way he just reads the field before he snaps the ball. He loves football. He's a football guy through and through forth. So I think, the reason why Joe Burrow is on the top of the list, we take a look at his rookie season stats. Yeah, completing the ball at 65% completion percentage, 2,688 yards, 13 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. This is all in 10 games. But if you look at his averages, he was averaging 268 yards per game and around 3 touchdowns per game. So if you take those averages and put it through the next 6 games, basically, if those averages don't decrease and don't increase, you just take the averages and add them to the next 6 games that he would have played in if he was healthy. He would have finished at 4,300 passing yards, 32 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. That would have been on par with Justin Herbert. It would have been 36 yards less passing than Herbert and 1 more passing touchdown than what Herbert had in his rookie season. So if Joe Burrow plays that full season, he's up there for Rookie of the Year. We're all in the debate for over 30 touchdown passes, less than 15 turnovers, 4,300 yards passing. I mean, would have been a very, really good rookie season. He was on track for that. That's what he was on track for if you just take everything at an equal pace from his averages. And I think you just see it, too, with the addition of Jamar Chase. Tyler Boyd, he had a good connection with Tyler Boyd. Having T. Higgins coming back from injury, too. So I think, not injury, just having T. Higgins coming back in general. But having T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, I mean, pick your poison who you want to cover, because that's... the one concern for me is going to be that Bengals offensive line. They didn't really do much in terms of improving it. I believe they did take a couple offensive linemen in draft, but they didn't really sign anybody to help improve that offensive line. And Joe Burrow did get beat up. I mean, the Eagles hit is one play to think of when he got hit from the back and the front and just got twisted around like a pretzel. So, That's the concern there, but in terms of being a dark horse MVP candidate, I could see Joe Burrow be putting up gaudy numbers, whether or not the Bengals finish mediocre or bad. He can put up gaudy numbers with just having Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, and T. Higgins on the offense. And not to mention Bernard, Joe Mixon's in the backfield, so that's a plus for them. Very good weapons for Joe Burrow to work with in Cincinnati. It's just the offensive line is just not the best, so you can take it for what it is there. Next up, on my second, I got 3 names here, and my second of the 3 names is Justin Herbert. You look at his rookie season, very good rookie season, completed the ball at 66.6%, 4,336 passing yards, 31 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and that's all in just 15 games. And I think with a full off season, the Chargers did bring in people on the offensive line, and they drafted an offensive lineman too to help keep Herbert upright. I think that's going to help a lot too. The addition of Brandon Staley for the head coach, I think he brings some defensive stability, a lot better defensive stability than what they had under Anthony Lynn. I think it's going to help. I think the defense is going to be a lot better this year. Shouldn't blow as many games that they did last year in terms of one-score games. Mike Williams and Keenan Allen returning on the outside. That's a good weapon. Adding Larry Roundtree is a very underrated addition. As you can tell by my Missouri hat, I'm going to be a little bit biased towards there, but Larry Roundtree is a very good addition in terms of the running back room. He can help be a third down guy, catch passes out of backfield, run the ball in between the tackles. Very good running back addition there. Herbert, I feel like, just has that kind of just quiet it factor that he's going to get it done in terms of, put the ball in Justin Herbert's hands and just see what happens. I think it really goes to show that the coaching that he got last year with the Chargers. I mean, when he was at Oregon, it just felt like, for whatever reason, when I watched Justin Herbert at Oregon, I felt like the coaching staff, it was either him or the coaching staff, I feel like they were both pressing too hard. And I feel like the coaching staff didn't trust Justin Herbert. I feel like they didn't trust him to go out there and win the football game for them. So I think, a better coaching staff in the NFL has really helped Justin Herbert develop into a really good quarterback. You saw the potential last year. I mean, 30 touchdowns for a rookie, that's insane. Only 10 turnovers for interceptions wise, that's amazing too. So Justin Herbert is number 2 in terms of my dark horse MVP candidates. In terms of, and also watch out for the Chargers too. Who knows? Rookie head coach, maybe make some noise there in the AFC West. Definitely the second best team right now. The Broncos don't really have a quarterback right now. Kind of feel bad for Drew Lock, but And the Raiders just, they blow games. They play really well early in the season and blow games late in the season. And, obviously the Chargers are not the best, better than the Chiefs. So the Chargers could definitely easily finish second in the division and definitely give the Chiefs run for the money in their games they play this season. Last up, I have not much of a surprise. Like, I thought about putting Josh Allen, but everyone knows Josh Allen's going to be in, MVP consideration this year. So it was more about guys that people kind of forgot about. I think people have forgotten about Dak Prescott and what he can do. Through 5 games, he was completing the ball at a 68%, 1,856 passing yards, 9 touchdowns, 4 interceptions through 5 games. That's pretty good. And if you just take his averaging, he was averaging around 4 touchdowns a game and 371 yards, passing yards per game before he got hurt. And you just take those numbers and just average them out, similar to what I did with Joe Burrow. Just take those numbers, just assume they stay even, and just average it out through all the games that he missed. Through a full season, Dak Prescott would have had 50 passing touchdowns and 5,939 passing yards. He would have had almost 6,000 passing yards. That would beat the NFL record by 462 yards. That would have been, it's better than what Aaron Rodgers put up this season. It's 2 more touchdowns and a lot more yards than what Aaron Rodgers put up by almost 1,000 yards. So, I mean, you look at Dak Prescott. It is very reasonable to assume if Dak Prescott played all of last year, he would have been really in the MVP talks and probably would have won the thing if you just take out his numbers. And numbers can lie. Tape is what tells the truth. But I mean, if you just look at the numbers, that's how MVP is really decided. I mean, heck, Derrick Henry didn't get any votes and he rushed for 2,000 yards. The fact that running backs don't get consideration for rushing 2,000 yards says something. But that's the thing. I think you just look at the numbers and what he was putting up. He would have been up there and probably would have won the thing. So I think, definitely don't ignore Dak Prescott. He's coming back. Offensive line's a bit of a question for Dallas. They had a lot of injuries there. Having CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, and Michael Gallup as wide receivers are great. They got some good tight ends. Running back Ezekiel Elliott will hopefully return to form for them. If not, Tony Pollard's a really good running back right behind him. So Dallas Cowboys, if they can just shore up whatever the heck happened on defense last year and just, keep Dak protected, they could definitely win the NFC East. It's a fairly weak division. I mean, the Giants made some additions in the offseason with Kenny Golladay and Kadarius Toney in the draft, but who knows what they will do. Is Daniel Jones really the answer? Defense can hold up a little bit. They played really good last year, but was it a fluke season for the defense? The Eagles are in just straight shambles right now. And the Washington football team, the team that won the division, you're not going to win. Very much kind of a fluke that they won the division last year. And Ryan Fitzpatrick is your quarterback. They didn't draft a quarterback. They didn't bring in another guy in free agency. Who knows? Either Taylor Heineke or Ryan Fitzpatrick starting for the Washington football team. I mean, hands down, Dak Prescott's the best quarterback in that division. I mean, got Ryan Fitzpatrick or Taylor Heineke started from the Washington football team. You got probably Jalen Hurts starting for the Philadelphia Eagles, and as much as good as Jalen Hurts is, he's not Dak Prescott. And Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones, it's just Dak Prescott's on another level than him. Daniel Jones has made significant jumps, but I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen there in Dallas? And it's kind of just who will win the NFC East. I mean, Dallas was probably the favorite because look at their team on paper. They got the best team on paper in that division. So just to see what they're going to do there. All right, I'm getting through podcasting material quick. But anyways, I want to talk about Tua Tagovailoa's situation. But before that, I'm going to take a little drink of water. Anyways, Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback from Alabama last year. I believe he played in 10 games. He played 10 games. Started several games too. Played in 10 games, started several games. Times last year, Tua looked great, and at times last year, Tua looked bad. And I think that's just part of growing as a rookie in the NFL. And I think that's what people forget about being a rookie in the NFL is that, you're not going to... Everyone's so used to... Patrick Mahomes' first year, when he was a rookie, he didn't play. He played one game, and that was at the end of the year, and he just sat and learned behind Alex Smith. Lamar Jackson, he didn't come in right away and play, but he had some success, but he kind of did look like a deer in the headlights in his first playoff game against the Los Angeles Chargers in that game. But my point is that rookie quarterbacks are just given up on at this point. I mean, poor Sam Darnold was set up to fail in New York. They traded him to Carolina, and then they draft another quarterback. Like, that's not how... You're just not building around your rookie quarterback that way. It's not the right way to treat your rookie quarterback. I mean, similar too with Josh Rosen, but Josh Rosen, I think he just had character issues there. Coaching staff didn't really like. New coaching staff, everything. But he was set up to fail in Arizona. That's my point. Tua Tagovailoa was kind of set up to fail last year in Miami. I mean, Brian Flores is a great head coach, but Chan Gailey as an offense coordinator is not going to fit Tua's skill set. Tua's not the gunslinger. He doesn't have the best arm in the world. He's not the most athletic. What Tua's really good at is playing off the RPOs. He's really good at looking at coverages and figuring out where to go with the football. He's not going to throw the ball in tight windows 50 yards down the field. That's just not his game. He's not a gunslinger mentality. He doesn't have that, like, I'm going to bomb the ball every single pass, like how Ryan Fitzpatrick did. I think that's how the offense was set up towards Ryan Fitzpatrick. And when you looked at it, Chan Gailey coached Ryan Fitzpatrick multiple times in NFL too, so they knew each other there, and it just wasn't set up for Tua to run that offense the right way. I mean, outside of Devontae Parker, he didn't really have weapons. They drafted another wide receiver in Jalen Waddle. I think the offensive line is going to be a lot better this year because they did have a young offensive line last year. I believe they drafted 2 guys last year. So more experience for them, another offseason for them. Should help keep Tua upright. But I think it's stupid that everyone's like, at the time earlier in the offseason before the Deshaun Watson situation came out, people were like, trade... the Texans should trade with Miami and trade Deshaun Watson, and Miami should, take Houston up on that offer and offer Tua and multiple first-round picks. I'm like, give Tua time. It's like, it's ridiculous. Just because he didn't play like up to Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow levels in his rookie season doesn't mean he's not going to be good. Just give it time. I mean, he came off a hip injury, didn't have an off season really. I mean, that's another thing with the rookie quarterbacks last year. Any second-year quarterback last year. They didn't have a regular offseason. They were doing things on Zoom. And if you're not set up to learn on Zoom, like if you can't learn on Zoom, it's not going to work for you. You're not going to get the same. You're not getting in-game reps. You're not getting practice reps. There was no preseason last year. There's no in-game reps there. To get your feet wet in the NFL is completely different. NFL speed is completely different than college speed. And I think just not having that practice time, not having some preseason games to work with really hurt Tua. I think obviously he was still going through some medical issues to that point, but in my opinion, I don't think he should have played at all last year because, one, he didn't have a full offseason, didn't have a good full offseason, how you normally do for rookie quarterbacks. Second, he was set up to fail with the offensive system, did not fit him, and I think just pulling him and benching him multiple times for Ryan Fitzpatrick, that can hurt his confidence a little. And I think that's just stupid the way they did that, especially in the Raiders game. I was like, what are you doing? Stick with it. If you lose the game, you lose the game. Stick with Tua. And they ended up winning that game because, Ryan Fitzpatrick had the crazy sideline throw. Jason Sanders kicked in the field goal. But my point was, like, it just plays mind games with the quarterback. You don't want to play mind games with your young quarterback. You want to show that you're fully behind him. And I think... I think Miami is fully behind Tua at this point. I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick did not re-sign with the Dolphins. He is with the Washington football team now. And I think Tua is going to know the playbook a lot better. I'm pretty sure Miami fired Chan Gailey. I'm pretty sure they fired him. So they have a new offensive coordinator. Hopefully they'll fit Tua's skill set a lot better. I think, Tua just had a rough rookie season, and it's honestly, it sucks. I mean, but he did play well in his rookie season for what it was for 10 games. I mean, he passed for 1,800 yards, 11 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 64% completion percentage. I mean, there were times he looked lost, and there were times he looked great. And I think just be patient with Tua. I think he'll show that he can become the quarterback that we all saw at Alabama. I think just give Tua time. Just give Tua time. Literally. I am going to talk about my last segment here. I got 3 coaches. I got an extensive note on the first 2 coaches. The third coach is a little bit of a coin flip in where you see. But we're going to talk about 3 college coaches that are kind of positioned on the hot seat at the moment going into the 2021 college football season. Top of the list has to be Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh is going into, I believe, his 7th year at Michigan. His 6th year last year, I believe they went 2-4. Wasn't a good season for them. I mean, they came out and beat Minnesota, but wasn't much of a good one as it looked at the time last year. I think, good. Let's just go into it. Jim Harbaugh hasn't won the Big Ten East and hasn't won the Big Ten Championship. I think that's something everyone would have thought he would have done by now at Michigan. He's 0-5 against Ohio State, and the average margin of defeat for Michigan to that point is 17 points. That's not good. And I mean, you go back to the overtime game where did JT Barrett get the first down? Did he not get the first down? Who knows? He didn't get the first down, by the way. You look at it, it wasn't a first down, but that was the closest Michigan has gotten to beat Ohio State since, I believe, the 2011 season, so just not good there. I mean, at that point, if you would have told me, Jim Harbaugh came that close and hasn't gotten any closer, I would have been like, dang, really? I would have thought he got a little closer, or at least have one victory over Ohio State at this point, but I think it just shows. I think he's 1-4 in bowl games. He won his first bowl game there. I believe it was a Citrus Bowl against Florida. But to that point, he's lost every single bowl game since. He's always constantly splitting with Michigan State for whatever reason. They've only beaten Michigan State once at home in his tenure. I believe they've beaten them twice on the road. But they struggling against Michigan State and Ohio State's the theme. Between the 2 schools, at home, he is a combined 1-6. That's not good. If you're at home, you at least need to win half those games against your rivals. You can't be 1-6. If you played 7 games, you want to at least be 4-3, or at least beat Michigan State more than once at home, because Michigan has a better program overall right now as it is against over Michigan State. But for whatever reason, they just can't beat Michigan State at home. So who knows what's going on with Harbaugh. I think the inability to develop the quarterback position has been one. I mean, you look at Jake Rudock's been through there, John O'Korn, Shea Patterson, Joe Melton, and there was a McCaffrey brother just recently. I believe he transferred out of there. Joe Milton he struggled at quarterback. They switched to a backup quarterback halfway through the season. It looked better, but who knows what's going on. I think just to struggle to develop a quarterback, the offensive system looks just old. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look spread out. For whatever reason, Jim Harbaugh just cannot coach offense in modern-day college football, and that's something I don't think anybody expected. I mean, look at the quarterbacks he's worked with. Andrew Luck, Colin Kaepernick, to name a few. But it's baffling, especially with Shea Patterson. When he had him for 2 seasons, everyone was like, Shea Patterson, he's going to put up Heisman numbers. He's going to do this and that and this and that. He didn't put up any good numbers. It just wasn't crazy like everyone thought it was going to be. Like, everyone thought, it was going to put up big numbers, thought U of M was going to win the Big Ten. Never happened. For whatever reason, Jim Harbaugh just could not develop that quarterback position. The offense looks old. I think Michigan's defense has been good, but what's always screws them in the end is when they play Ohio State, they play man-to-man, and they don't have the athletes to do that. Michigan does not have the athletes to go man-to-man against Ohio State right now on defense. They just can't do that. And it shows. It showed definitely last year's game. They didn't play this year because of COVID. But it showed last year in last year's game. It was a thrashing and a beatdown. So, it showed the past 2 seasons, obviously. Next up is Scott Frost, head coach at the University of Nebraska. Came over from UCF 3 years ago. And right now, in 3 seasons, he's 12-20. He hasn't finished with a winning record at all. Struggles with the quarterback position with AJ Martinez. You would think Scott Frost would be able to develop the quarterback position. Well, AJ Martinez has not been all that. Over 3 seasons, he's only thrown 31 touchdowns and 21 interceptions. That's horrible for 3 seasons. For whatever reason, the offensive system just not set up for Adrian Martinez. Just not getting development. Because Adrian Martinez has the talent. I believe he was a 4-star quarterback, 4 or 5-star quarterback coming out of high school. He was seen as like the savior of the Nebraska program, a young quarterback to build around. In the past 3 years, I mean, he hasn't thrown more than 3,000 yards, and he hasn't thrown for 17 touchdowns in his freshman year, and that's the best he's done. He hasn't thrown more than 20 touchdowns in a season, and it's sad. Like Scott Frost, I thought it was a good hire for Nebraska. I mean, it's alma mater. He played there too. Just for whatever reason, Nebraska, I think recruiting-wise, maybe offensive scheme-wise, struggling with the quarterback position. But I think that's another head coach you have to look at who is on the hot seat for the 2021 college football season. I'm going to take a drink of water before I get into my last name and before we end up into ending the podcast for today. My last name, I didn't write this down. I didn't have extensive notes. I write notes. That's just what I do. The last name I didn't write down. It's mainly because I have watched Georgia football since Kirby Smart has been there. And I think Kirby Smart is on a small hot seat at the University of Georgia. For whatever reason, Kirby cannot get it done in the big moments. And when you look at the SEC Championship a couple years ago in the Rose Bowl, yes, they won those games, but they haven't been able, after losing to Alabama in a national championship game, Georgia just hasn't been able to win the big games that they needed. They didn't win the SEC Championship against Alabama, lost against LSU the next year, lost to Alabama this year, lost to Florida this past season too. It just wasn't, for whatever reason, I think they just struggle on offense. Their defense has been good. Georgia's defense has always been good. And I think what Kirby Smart wants to do, he wants to play off the run and set up the pass. Yes, that worked in college football 10, 12 years ago. That's what Alabama did with Nick Saban starting back in 2009. That's how Alabama set it up to where they are now, as opposed to, that's a good way to build up a program starting out. But if you can't pass the ball consistently in today's college football, you're not going to win football games. You're just not. You're going to win a lot of football games the way Kirby's playing with run, set up the pass. But Kirby's also a really conservative coach. He doesn't go for it in the red zone. He likes to kick field goals. And you kick field goals, you lose football games. I mean, for whatever reason, playing that old school football, yes, it can win you a lot of games, but it's not going to win you championships consistently. Just not in today's modern day college football. And I think that with Kirby losing to Florida last year, losing to Alabama last year. Granted, Stetson Bennett was starting quarterback. Now they got a quarterback in JT Daniels. But I think struggling with recruiting the wide receiver position. There's been Kirby Smart's tenure at Georgia. There's really been no alpha dog wide receiver, star receiver that you could say. Outside of George Pickens. Maybe, but George Pickens hasn't put up gaudy numbers. He had a connection with JT Daniels last season, but he's going to be out this season. There's really no names that stand out in terms of wide receivers. They recruit wide receivers. It's just, there's no alpha dog there. Can recruit running backs like heck. Same thing with quarterback, but for whatever reason, losing Justin Fields really hurt them a couple years ago too. Jake Fromm, I think, was a good quarterback for them, but Jake Fromm is a good college quarterback. That's all he's ever going to be. So it's just, I love Georgia football. I like Georgia football, but it looks like Kirby's just building an old school, and just can't win that way in college football. Kirby, he needs to learn to adapt, and I think if he can learn to adapt, Georgia can definitely win a national championship. That would be their first since 1980. That would be great. But, yeah. That is it for the hot seat segment. Jim Harbaugh, Scott Frost, and I think a little bit going to Kirby Smart if he doesn't see a lot of success this year like everyone's expecting him to. But anyways, that is it for today's podcast. It's a bit of a short podcast. There hasn't been a lot of sports news lately, a lot of sports rumors or anything. So that is it for this podcast. Go check out episode 8. Talked a lot about college football and kind of the opening week there, a little bit about Tennessee Titans, Mizzou football, talked about last episode too. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode. Take a look at my Twitter at CP4227 and at PayneRCam4227 on Instagram. Go check out there. I'm going to start posting a little bit more, start posting about the podcast too. But anyways, thank you for listening, and I hope everyone